thoughts on vinyl and vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 86. Today's very special guest is Seb Alvarez. He is the founder of this new project called Virgin Mother. They have a brand new album out called Morning Ritual. So Seb is a really cool musician from Chicago. We had a great conversation. The band, he's also in another band called Meth, and so these two bands that we mentioned over the course of the conversation are, metally, grindcore, kind of, heavy noise rock music. So, to have the topic of discussion be Sparklehorse's "It's a Wonderful Life" is a pretty cool, contradictory kind of episode where there's seemingly two different kind of styles of music that meet somewhere, and so that's pretty interesting to find out about. I'd like to say thank you for the people who have tuned into the previous episodes of the Noise Rock series for No Coast Fest. It was a great fest. I was there for 2 of the nights, and it was a wonderful time. I thank Jeff Heelan for having us and for having me for both nights, and it's a great festival. I mean, I expect nothing but to hear great things about that festival going forward. If you missed it, no big deal. There'll be another one, I'm sure, next year, to stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll even broadcast about it. But back to Seb, wonderful conversation, and if you guys like this conversation, all we ask here is that you do the things you do with the internet, please. Like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things. Rating and reviewing especially helps because it helps in the whole ratings thing. So if you don't mind doing that, we really appreciate it. Otherwise, you can find everything about us on psychicstatic.net. All of our social media connections and links are there, as well as a way to contact us if you'd like to. And thank you. Enjoy.
Hey there.
Hey, Seb. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Just just kind of getting stuff ready for that. We have a record release on Wednesday, so I've just been kind of shuffling around trying to get all that stuff going. Prepped, but it's been pretty good. It's been a pretty decent day. It's just cold as hell here right now. So.
Oh, is it
yes.
Chicago, right?
Yeah. I was like, I think everyone's just getting acclimated to the temperature drop because it always just hits all suddenly. Like it was like 70, 80 last week or like 2 weeks ago, and now it's like 30.
Yeah, so. Right. Yeah, we're feeling the same thing over here. I'm in Rhode Island, so.
Oh, right on. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a little.
As well as we do.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is kind of known for being a little brutal when it comes to the cold weather specifically, but yeah, I mean, it's the season changes are just getting weird.
Yeah, I bet. I feel like it's very quick. Like spring and fall are very just they're kind of a blur, and then everything just kind of you get those drastic switches on everything else, right. And it just fucking rolls, I guess. But
yeah. So how long have you been in Chicago? Are you a lifer?
Yeah, I am. I was born in Chicago, and then I grew up in the suburbs, and then I spend most of my time out in Chicago and in Rockford mostly. But I commute from the suburbs. But I live there in a way without actually living in the city, but I'm like always down there. So.
Oh, okay. Rockford, huh? Isn't that where Cheap Trick's from?
Yeah. I was like, that's their claim to fame.
Yeah, right.
Their honorary roads named after the Cheap Trick members and everything as well. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So So what was it like growing up for you in that suburb?
It was okay. It was very I was one of the only Latin American people, I guess, in my high school. It was predominantly white. There was maybe 10 people of color in my graduating class and stuff. So it was not diverse at all. And then once I was out of high school and I started playing out more and meeting more people through music, it was that's when I started meeting and having a more diverse group of friends and everything. But
right.
Yeah, growing up here is just I don't know. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of like really cool musicians that have come out of my hometown. And like all of them have like relocated and like rebased in like Chicago and stuff. But like in terms of like stuff actually happening here, it's honestly like a Trump pit in a way. Oh. So it's like a lot of people with just pickup trucks and flags and shit. And it's just like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like,
right.
More often than not. But
yeah, it's kind of made itself a little bit more evident these days. That kind of like contrast between what maybe like our similar type of beliefs and then the people that we just don't understand at all.
Yeah,
they're just like they come right out of the woodworks now, and it's very proud.
Yeah, they make it very known and come out of the woods and like just like it's I mean it's not as chaotic, I guess, these days as it was like a couple of years ago, but
right, yeah, it's a little quieter now, but it's still a little touchy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still live and well.
Especially as a Latino male. So where are you from? Like, what is your background? Like, what kind of Latino are you?
All four of my grandparents immigrated from Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And then my parents were first generation, so then I'm second generation. But just I know zero Spanish, really, like, which sucks. That was completely skipped out on my upbringing and everything. And
were you embarrassed to practice as a kid?
It wasn't that I think it was once I got a little older, and I started I started working with a lot more Latino people, and I had like worked in a shop, a manufacturing plant for like 5-6 years. And so like all of the like Hispanic workers there would always give me shit because I didn't know Spanish, and then I would pick up shop Spanish and like enough to kind of like shit talk with them a little bit. But like it was a friendly rapport. But like me and one of my buddies, Tim, he's another guy just involved in the music scene and stuff, but we have like a similar upbringing because he's also Latin American, doesn't speak any Spanish, and he's like, yep, like not white enough for the white people, not brown enough for the brown people. That's where we're at, like with just because of our lack of Spanish and stuff. But
I hear you, man. No, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I have no accent. Like I don't even have like I grew up in Cranston, Rhode Island, which is kind of known, kind of like Boston, to have like some really nasty, like silly accent. I think you don't pronounce your R's. You accentuate the A's, the high pitched things. You go pocky ka, something like that. And I don't do that, but I also don't have a Latino accent.
Yeah, see, and it's weird. It's just like, and it just kind of like, what's that a product from? Did your parents have accents or anything?
Yeah. I'm actually first generation. I was born here, but everybody, including my brothers, were born in Bolivia. Okay, which is where I'm from.
Like it's good. I feel like, I mean, even like I graduated high school like 13 years ago at this point, and it's just like I feel like even like from when I graduated to like now, there's such a like gap of just like acceptance and development with in like those communities where it's just like even like, I mean, even in my hometown and stuff, it just seems like there's a lot more just like broadening of like thought and everything. Like people are like a little bit more accepting, or just like a lot more normal, but then you still have like that older generation that kind of clashes against it. But it just it just seems like, like you were saying too, it's just like, I don't know, there's a lot more resources, and I mean, especially just with like all the social media and internet and stuff, like you're exposed to so many different lifestyles and everything too, where it's just like it doesn't feel as foreign to run into like someone who like is just like different from the people that you interact with like in your day-to-day life.
The social norm.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, progress. I mean, we have definitely progressed quite a bit. Maybe not. Some people consider it not as much as we need to, but it's progress. It happens. It's gradual.
Exactly. It's like, hey, baby steps are still steps. Like it's just like, as long as we're not regressing completely, and like in some ways we have, but like I feel like for the most part, it's still just like, as long as there's like you're just kind of clawing in a way. And I feel like, I don't know, that's kind of how life is. Like,
yeah. So tell me about that, because obviously you kind of like, you know, clawed your way into making music. Like what was the catalyst to get you involved in music as a kid?
Honestly, it was like just I mean, like middle school, I think I went to like my first like local show. And it was in my hometown, and it was like some of my brother's friends. They did like these covers of like Coheed and Cambria and like Fear Before the March of Flames and like all these old like Hot Topic mall core bands and stuff. But like I had grown up going to a lot of shows. Like my mom would take us to shows, and that was like the first time I really saw people like around my age like playing music and playing a show, and it was just like really, really fucking cool. And like I remember watching them do this cover of like Crimes by the Blood Brothers, and that was like how I got introduced to that band. And it was just like interesting because all that music was so different from like this. Like I listened to like a bunch of new metal and stuff when I was like 10, 11. And then like hearing that kind of like, it's not that far off, I guess, but like it was just like different. It was more shrill, and there was just like, I don't know, that's what kind of got me into like weirder music. And then from there it was just kind of like I was like, I just kind of want to start a band. Like I want to try something, and I didn't know how to play anything at that time. And I just asked the only people I knew who played instruments or anything, like, hey, let's try to start this band. And like my first band was like 8th grade, and we were horrible. We were just like a really, really bad like screamo band, if you even want to call it that. And like, I don't know, it was just like from then on though, it's like I don't think there's been a gap from then to now where it's just like I wasn't like involved or like playing music to like some capacity. And like I don't know, it was just, there's such a like release from it, and I'll just like never forget that like first show, because it was just like, I don't know, it's made a very lasting impact on me from like then and now, because it's just like I don't really second guess myself in those ways either, because of like those musicians, like my like local heroes, I guess, in a way.
Sure. Right.
Like,
those kids showed you that it was possible. Yeah.
And it was just I don't know, it's just really awesome. And it's like I still like keep in touch with like most of them, and like I mean some of those guys too, like they still play out in bands, and like some of them are just like incredible musicians where I'm just like, I could never be on that level, but like, it's just, it's still inspiring to see like they're still doing it. And like, because of them, like I started, and it's like, I've been doing this since I was like 14 now. So 17 years at this point, which is kind of nuts to say out loud. I guess I didn't realize how long it's been, but like,
right. But different bands. Cause I mean, like the band that you're probably best known for is Meth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had a few bands before that, I guess.
Yeah, I've had like 15 or 20 different bands.
Oh, okay.
So. But yeah, Meth is definitely like probably my most well-known project by a lot. And then I had a handful of other bands that I did like regional tours with, or just like did really short like US runs and stuff, but like nothing really substantial, all very DIY, like just playing in like basements, playing like in just like random places, like just wherever we could really. And it's like, sure. I mean, even this Virgin Mother tour that's coming up like next week, it's like kind of going a little bit back into that, where it's like we're playing like a handful of like DIY spots and basements, and I'm looking forward to it too, because it's just like it's just kind of dipping my feet back into it. And I think it's the longest run that I've done since the pandemic too, so it's like I'm a little nervous in that regard too, because I haven't been away from home like for an extended period of time like that. But it'll be good. I'm excited just to get back out and play.
Yeah, that sounds great. So speaking of the band Meth that you used to be, I mean, I said used to be. I don't know if that's true. Is Meth still active?
Yeah. We actually just finished writing our second record, and then we're recording next month. And so we're hoping that the next LP will come out like probably late next year, but we're still active. We just kind of like pop our head out when it's appropriate, and then like we'll kind of go in hiding, which is kind of by design too. I don't like to be overly active on social media. Like there isn't like stuff to like really promote either. Like,
sure.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've always like really enjoyed like bands where it's just like, oh, this band hasn't posted in like 6-7 months, and then all of a sudden they post something and it's like, oh, there's something coming up. Like I don't know, just like that mystique to it in a way.
Sure.
I just feel like it's more intriguing.
So how did Virgin Mother, like what was the inspiration to start this new project?
It was a handful of things. Like a lot of it initially too, like the idea of just having like a purely a project that was just kind of my own. I had gotten a little bit burnt out from like just meth touring constantly too before the pandemic, and like the way we were writing and everything. I just felt like the music I was writing was just way different than what that band was needing and entailing. And like, it kind of just like deviated from that. And then just like trying to get out of writing like really heavy music. I'd always been in like pretty heavy bands or like really noisy bands, and like Virgin Mother in its own right is very heavy and noisy, but it's like a different type of
it mixes it up.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to do that, where it just like stuff feels genreless, and like and you can listen to a song off of that record. You can listen to like 2 different songs off that record and they sound like completely different bands in a way, but it's like wanting to like have that element to it but make it cohesive. And like Meth, and it's in a way is very like, it's very calculated. It's a very like precise band. There's a very deliberate like atmosphere and soundscape that we try to like create. And with Virgin Mother, it was just like it's just different, and it just felt like it was a different emotion, it was a different attitude. It was so I needed to channel that somewhere else. And then like, so I had those ideas going in my head, and then thematically there was me going to like a mental facility for like 10 days. And that kind of like was the catalyst to like spew out like most of just like my internal emotions and stuff. Cause like, I mean, everything that I wrote with Meth was very metaphorical, but it was like very story driven. And like most of the things I wrote, like in that time period and prior, it was all like, it was like, I would kind of talk about myself, but it was very clouded and very metaphorical and very like, just, yeah, it just, like was always very grim or like really dark, or just trying to like channel like these really, just like bleak emotions and mindsets. And with, after, being like institutionalized during that time period, it was just, like, I was like, I've never actually written about myself or like my own feelings or like my just whatever I'm going through. And it was like, I wanted to like, essentially just like, it felt like just self-therapy in a way. And it was like, I just want to try to figure some stuff out, and like doing that lyrically and like kind of like writing things and facing things that I was going through during those time periods. It was like, it was eye-opening. It was really hard to do. And like, I just, like, I don't know, it was such a different beast in its own way, where like, it just, took a ton out of me, and it was like a project that like it took a year and a half to record that record, because it was like I'd work on it with my buddy Adrian, who produced the whole thing, and like we would just grind at it for like a week at a time, and then it was like, okay, we need to sit, and then we would like let it rest for like a month or two, and then I would go back in the studio after like kind of tinkering with things, and then it was very like the way it was just made, it was made kind of at its own pace entirely, and it was like I didn't want to like rush it. I didn't want it to feel like, oh, I have to get this done like right now. I didn't really set like a timeline for it to be finished, just because I didn't really want to take away from its voice, I guess, in a way.
Right. Well, but so you did like 5 EPs though too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So it was like Morning Ritual was the LP, and then I had 3 EPs that came out a couple months like prior to each other this year, and then I had like a split that I did with this band Heel Turn and Infinity Land, and then the first EP, which was just like a demo. There's a couple songs off of that demo on the LP, but that was the initial release for that project, and it was like just recorded in my apartment during shutdown, like that April to May. It was like I just bought an interface, and I didn't really know how to play guitar comfortably, and I had no way to actually like record like acoustic drums, so it was like I just made beats on FL Studio essentially, and like it sounds really like, I don't know, it was like the first thing I've ever really like produced on my own too, so it was like there's a lot of like learning
trial and error.
Yeah, 100%. It's like it's definitely a gritty sounding record. It's not the best sounding, but I like it for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely captures something, you know. I mean, all of those recordings, I mean, I've listened to just about everything, I'm pretty sure at this point. So you know, like you're saying, I mean, they're very different too, like between each release, you know, the between those EPs and then up and leading up into this LP. Just those EPs alone, those little 4-song each ones, I think, right? Each one is about 4 songs. Yeah, very different vibes per EP, you know? And so then it kind of leads into this LP, this full-length kind of vision. And it's the same thing. It kind of like, it almost feels like you just put those EPs together, you know, because it has all of those like almost like a trio of different vibes.
Yeah, it was weird because like initially too, like the first 2, like Marrow and Dialect, they're supposed to be like completely different projects entirely. And like Marrow, I was just trying to write a record with John Carroll, who was like my favorite drummer growing up, and like he was down to write a record with me, and I was like, okay, like this is amazing, like it's like a 3-minute grind album. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to like write this and like figure it out. And I had one of my buddies, my buddy Nick, play bass on it. And yeah, it wasn't supposed to be like a Virgin Mother release at all or anything. And and the same thing with Dialect. It was just all like collabing and just making these weird like soundscapes and beats. And then as I was getting all this material together, I was like, just kind of tired of making new bands for every single release and stuff too. And it was like, I can just release it all under like Virgin Mother and just call it like its own thing. So then I can at least like kind of have like an overarching like name for everything. And I don't have to come up with like a band name for everything and then like figure out a new marketing scheme for like each release. And
it just makes it easier to kind of have it all under one name.
Yeah. And I was like, and I thought it'd be cool too, where it's just like, even if those records sound like nothing alike, or they sound like completely different bands, I was like, that kind of feels like more the vibe I want to go with anyway, because I've always found that really interesting for like other bands that like do similar things, where it's like,
so tell me a little bit about that. Like, tell me a little bit about your musical history as far as like what you were listening to growing up. Like, what was one of the first, you know, musical like records you heard?
Like growing up, a lot of the music I grew up with, like when I was like a kid, like until like I was like 9 or 10. My mom would put on music videos while she was like cleaning the house, and like a lot of Tears for Fears, a lot of Queen, and then like a lot of like early like 90s like alt rock, like Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, like just like all of that really shaped like my taste as like a kid. And then I started getting into more like heavy music as my older brother, and I got into like Korn and like all that new metal stuff.
Oh, okay. So what was like one of the first records you bought?
The first, I remember getting like Ixnay on the Ombre Offspring like for Christmas one year.
Okay.
And then the first CD I ever got is actually the fucking Kazam soundtrack, which is hilarious.
Oh, is that
Shaq is a genie?
Shaq's. Yeah.
But in terms of like I feel like actual records that I listened to like front to back, I think it was honestly like the self-titled Slipknot record when I was like 10 probably. And I just remember like just being like, whoa, this is like just chaos. Like, and like that was what really got me into like just like heavy music and like just like anything that was like really abrasive. And
right. So I mean, from what you said, it sounds like you kind of always kind of leaned towards heavier rock music.
Yeah, I think, and it really wasn't until like later high school that I started kind of like branching out of that. But yeah, for like the most part, it was like a lot of just like heavier music. And then like I got into like the post-hardcore, or like not like true post-hardcore, but like Glassjaw, Finch, The Used, like stuff like that in like early middle school. And then that turned into like really getting into like Blood Brothers and like Daughters and like all those weird like just
noise rock
bands. Yeah, and then like those like noisy grind bands. And then I feel like everything kind of like turned for me when I found out about like Sonic Youth and like Hella, and both of those bands just really kind of like changed my perception of music because of like just the way that their approach was. And like Zach Hill's drumming was always like mind blowing to me because he's just his own like entity, and he's going at like 200 miles per hour all the time. And like when I first started drumming, it was him and John Carroll. Like John Carroll is a drummer in the Number 12 Looks Like You, and he would do like jazz and metal, and then like that was always really cool to me. And then Zach Hill, it was just like you just can't stop, like, and there should never not be a beat like hitting everything. And like the first band I was in, it was just me and my buddy. It's just a 2-piece, and I felt like I needed to compensate because we didn't have a bass player. So it was like I'd always like try to channel my inner Zach Hill, and it was like, okay, I can't stop playing, like no matter what, like whatever his riffs are doing, it's like I have to accent like every single note. And I don't know, it's just like it's interesting, like those writing styles, because it was like that approach in that band, like it really brought out a lot, especially like as predominantly like a drummer, like my whole life. That was like my main instrument forever. And it was like playing with him and then starting to like branch out and play with like other musicians. And like I would always want to play with like just new people and like try to pick everyone's brains and try to like get like whatever their like natural habits were, and like trying to learn how to write around that, or trying to learn how to write around like different people's like just influences, and learning how to play different genres and stuff. It was like I just wanted to gather as much knowledge as humanly possible, I guess.
Yeah, well, and so now, you know, I asked you to be here because I wanted to talk about a album that was important to you, and the album that you chose was Sparklehorse's "It's a Wonderful Life." Now, so where does that fit in that whole timeline of musical influences and being exposed to things?
I picked that one in particular because it was actually like a recent dive, like maybe like a year and a half ago. Is when I really like kind of fell in love with that record. Like I had heard it had been recommended to me by a couple close friends, and like I knew a little bit about it beforehand, but like I really just kind of fell in love with just like that whole record front to back, and just like the vibe of it, and then like Mark Linquos's just like story as well, and like the tragedy of like his life, and like up until when he died by suicide and everything. It was just like a really tragic tale, and it was another like musician that like I felt like I had connected to, that like just had a very complicated like relationship with like their mental health, and like how they kind of would handle things, and like their interactions. And like one of my favorite things in regards to like It's a Wonderful Life was like how nervous he was apparently when he was approaching Tom Waits for the record. And he like had looked up to Tom Waits like really heavily, but like he didn't want to make the phone call to call him, even though like Tom Waits was the one who was like, I'd be interested in working with this guy. And he was like all nerves and just like didn't know what to say. And then they ended up like, I think it was like they met in like a car in like LA. And then they just like drove down like a street and we're just talking about ideas for the record. And it was like,
and other random things, like just kind of just random stuff, like, you know, what's your favorite animal?
Yeah, it was just like all these just like random like thoughts and everything. And like there was something with that in particular of just like just taking like these shots in the dark, or just like, I want to work with this person, I don't know this person. And like that's something I'd always done like my whole life, of just like I've sent so many emails to people where it's just like people that I've always wanted to work with and stuff, and like 95% of them are like unreciprocated, and it's like that's totally fine. Like I have no expectation of it, but like those that 5% of times where like people even just respond, it means a lot to me. But it's like that mindset of just like, and just him in particular too, like the way he like recorded his first 2 records completely on his own, and just like you know, just it's that very like DIY mindset, but like also with It's a Wonderful Life too. What like connected me with it so heavily as well was just like the vast array of collaborators that he had all over it. And during that time period too, it was like that's where Virgin Mother was really like kind of snowballing, and it was like, I want this to be a heavily collaborative like project. I want to be able to like just work with random people for like a song or two if I needed to, or like just like whatever I wanted to, and I can just put it out under this moniker or whatever. But it's just all like it's all very collaborative. And then just like, I don't know.
Well, so it sounds to me like you're saying that timeline wise, you were exposed to this record, and specifically this one.
Yeah, honestly, I was like working. It was It's a Wonderful Life. I was working doing like HVAC stuff at a high school, and just like that was what I was listening to. And I was just like cutting up like pipe. And it was just like a really weird thing to listen to, because it's just like really mellow out indie music, and I'm just like cutting, and like there's all these like insane industrial noises happening like on the outside of everything, but like there's just something really specific about that time period too.
But it sounds like you like someone turned you on to this like around the same time, or maybe shortly after you had been what's the word for that? Institutionalized.
Oh yeah, it was probably maybe like 3-4 months afterward. And
so that's a heavy trip.
Yeah, it was like it definitely hit me like at the perfect time, and then like hearing all the stuff too, or like his overdose in like 96 or whatever, when he like collapsed on his legs, and like he couldn't walk because he lost circulation completely.
And he died for a few minutes. He legally had been dead for a few minutes. Like, it's rough. I mean, what does a story like that do to you in that kind of fragile state? Like kind of just recuperating and recovering yourself.
I don't know. It just, the way that I feel like just listening to that record to me, and then knowing all of that like history of his, and then like knowing how everything ended, and it felt like such a personal and like intentional piece of work, and like listening to all of it and trying to like nitpick. Like his writing is very metaphorical as well, and it's very like lyrically, it's like you can like pick out your own meanings to it, and I just felt like there's a lot of like similarities that I had with like my own writing, and like just different like ideas, and like his like just his battles with like alcoholism and like his addictions and everything, and like going through like my own struggles with alcoholism predominantly, and like it was just like there's just a lot to take in, and it really just like I was working on Morning Ritual, and then I was listening to that, and just something about it just like made me feel like I just was doing something okay, like I was doing something right. And I don't know like what exactly it was, but there's just like such beauty in that record, and I just like really got attached to it, because I'm used to just like listening to all of this like really just ugly sounding music, and it was just such a contrast from that. And it really kind of evoked a lot of that out of me, in terms of like even like when we were recording during that time period too, it's like I kind of changed up a lot of like smaller things over the record, where it was like some of the parts were like not as clean or not as pretty sounding, or there's some more grit to it, and it was like I kind of wanted to like strip some of that grit away because of like the contrast of it. And
can I tell you something? So I knew I was going to speak with you, and so I was listening to your music, and your latest record with Virgin Mother just came out a couple days ago. So I've been listening to that, and I've been listening to this record, and I was just like, what is the connection here? Because I mean, like I kind of like I started to listen to your record in its entirety, because you only had like 2 singles out, I think, at the first time I was listening. So now I got to listen to the whole thing, the whole piece. And I was just like, this is really interesting, because I think like if you took the new Virgin Mother record and stripped it of all of the noisier elements and the more abrasive parts, it would probably be very akin to what Sparklehorse's It's a Wonderful Life is like.
And I that's really flattering of you to say too. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like, I just felt like there's so many parallels with what I was doing on that record, and then like what his record had turned out to be, because he had done all these records, like all of his previous works were like individual like works that he like produced and like put out, and like he played everything on it. Right. And one of the things on with It's a Wonderful Life was like he kind of wanted like, well, the label didn't want him to like really do all of that on his own. They wanted a more polished work, but like he pulled in all these collaborators and pulled in people that were gonna like play with him. And it's like on Morning Ritual, like I play everything on it, but I also like was very like with all the EPs and stuff, it was like, it felt very similar. It was like he collaborates with all these people, and there was like a fearlessness to like his collaborating, and just like having all these people's like voices and everything. And there's so many like different vibes and just like ideas all over that record. Like you have like those upbeat songs, or like the more like the heavier alt songs, like King of Nails is like one of my favorite songs on that record. And it just has like that really, really crunchy, like distorted guitar tone. And then it goes into I'm so bad with song names, but the next song, it just starts with like really somber piano. And it was like, just listening to that as I was making that record, it was like, I was like, there's just something here that like feels parallel to like what I'm doing. And like, it was a record that I just like listened to a lot. And when I was trying to like structuralize Morning Ritual, and like figure out track orders and how to like weave things into each other, it was like, that was kind of like a model for it in a way, because like you would have those songs that were like like I don't even want to say abrasive because they weren't abrasive, but it was like they were like just like more distorted and more just like there's like crunchiness, and then like you have like Dog Door, the one that he did with Tom Waits, and it's like that weird like industrial kind of sounding song like right in the middle of the record, and I was like, oh, I have a weird ass industrial song right in the middle of my record. And like it was just I don't know, there's just like a lot of similarities there, and then just like just I don't know, and just
right. But texture wise specifically, I think that's the thing that what it seems to me like you kind of grasp from it the most, because especially kind of talking about like your early kind of introduction into music and like a lot of the stuff that you were being influenced by, and obviously to go on into a band like Meth, it's like, akin to what the bands that you mentioned, Blood Brothers, Daughters, stuff like that. It's kind of like that grindcore, hardcore, metalish almost. And then kind of finding an album like this to kind of inspire a more introspective, personal record that is still shares some of the elements that you're known for and used to, but is experimental in a sense, especially for you as a writer, I imagine, to kind of branch out into something a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think especially like during that time too, like his like lyrically and like just his approach to all of that, and then like there's a lot of like really cool panning on that record as well. Like there'll be like some of the songs, like the drums are like completely like panned left, and then like some of the other like or like piano will be panned hard right and guitars like hard left, and it's just like there's so many cool ideas like that, and it was like it is very just like atmospheric in those ways, and there's a lot of like just really minuscule things that like you wouldn't really notice like upon like a first listen, and like having those like just those really tiny accents in the music, and like you were saying, like creating those textures and everything. It's just like it feels really important to have that within like just all music in general. Like I don't know, I just like always like when there's just like those like finite just details, and like there's just something really small, like you might hear like a guitar just like completely buried that you didn't hear like the first 10 times you listen to like a song or something, but it's like oh, I just picked that up. And I feel like that record in particular too, there's a lot of that where there's just like a lot of subdued ideas, or like there's just like it's very minimalist, but it's not at the same time. It feels like it's very minimal, but there's just so many things.
Oh yeah, as soon as you start peeling the onion, you start seeing like all the layers, and it's like, oh shit, this is a lot more involved than I thought it was.
Yeah,
I thought I was just looking at an onion, but
yeah, exactly. It's just like and that's always just been like fascinating to me, is just when you have bands like that, and just bands that are just gonna like do like the smallest things, but it just like really just encapsulates like those songs, and like it really just kind of like adds like nuance to all of it. And yeah, I don't know, I hadn't really like lyrically too, it's like I had like written out like a decent amount of lyrics and stuff for the record when I like had found out about It's a Wonderful Life and stuff. But then as I dove into it and everything, it was like I kind of like changed my approach to like how I was writing, because of how his songs felt, and just like reading into like how he was writing. And like, I mean, he's a very metaphorical writer, but you can still kind of like pick out what he's talking about, and like still formulate like an idea. And even if it is like not necessarily like what he was trying to talk about specifically, it's like you can still kind of like tell your own story behind it, or like pick it out and like interpret it in a way. And and yeah, I don't know, it was just like similar to like old Nirvana stuff too, where it's just like, I mean, a lot of his shit was just babble, and but it worked for what it was. And I feel like there's been people trying to dissect some of his like lyrics, like, and it's just like, I don't know, I don't even think he knew what he was talking about like half the time either. And like I've always liked that a bit.
Well, that always goes, that kind of always kind of like goes hand in hand with the tragic end as well. Like when somebody has left the world for one way or another, however it ended up being, and then you have like such kind of like weird and like mythical words like this artist does, Mark Linkis's poetry, let's just call it. There's a lot to interpret there, I mean, you can interpret it however you want. I did find this quote from actually the review from Pitchfork that reviewed this record, where the writer said that in fact some of the lyrics are so surreal that it's hard to imagine they're even metaphors for anything. Because it's true. I mean, like I was listening to the record, I'm just like I'm trying to analyze the lyrics, like I'm looking at the words, I'm listening to at the same time, and I'm just like, I don't fucking get it. I don't like I kind of get it. Like I think I feel it more than I understand it. And I think that's maybe probably the most important part. But yeah, like lyrically speaking, it's kind of a lot to digest there.
Yeah. And I think that aspect of it was like what is so fascinating, because it's like It's a Wonderful Life, and then like completely different genre and everything, but like Brainiac, like similar thing where it's just like he was just like stream of conscious writing, and like most of his shit is just like it's like complete babble, or like Mars Volta and stuff, like early Volta, like some of like his stuff is, I mean, it's very stream of consciousness, but I felt like a lot of what like Mark was doing on that record, it was like kind of like a tie-in between like a stream of consciousness, but he was like channeling like emotions, and like it just felt like it's a very heavy record. But like you were saying too, it's just like I don't really understand like everything that's happening here, or like what exactly you're trying to say, but there is such a way that it's delivered in this very like somber, like depressing and very like meaningful way that like you just feel it, like you were saying. And I don't know, it's just there's something about like not being able to completely dissect a song, or not being able to like pick like lyrically, like go through a song and be like, this is exactly what he was saying here, this is what he's saying here.
Sure. It's the mystery, like, man.
Yeah. And it's just like I love that and everything. Like I love just like movies and stuff where it's just like I don't really know what the fuck's going on right now. I might need to watch this like 4 or 5 times and like I still might not get it. But I don't know, there's just something there's like an allure to not really knowing what the fuck's going on around you.
I mean, anything, it's like it's almost like what they say about like burlesque, it's like kind of the more that you see, the less appealing it is. Like the more the more that it's kind of like hidden or shrouded is the more appealing and then kind of intriguing it is,
and just so up to your imagination in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So well, we should probably try to tackle some of this record. We're going to get into it, and we'll start with the first song, It's a Wonderful Life. I have a quote from Mark where he discusses the meaning behind the title track. So the quotes goes, I got fed up with people in America thinking that my music is morose and depressing and all that. That song is like a fuck you to journalists or people who are not smart enough to see what it is. But in the end, it was more about how every day you should pick up something, no matter how minuscule or microscopic it is. And when you go to bed, you can say, I was glad that I was alive to see that. That's really what it's about.
I love that. That is like, it's just such it's like the like dichotomy of that song, and like knowing that like that in reference, like, because we've been talking about it too. It's like, this album's like depressing feeling, and knowing that like right off the bat, he's like, it's a fuck you to people who think it's like that. And no, I love that a lot, because
but there's also to put it into context, this album came out after that incident in London where he overdosed and he lost use of his legs because they got pinned under him for like 14 hours, and he was clinically dead for a few minutes and all that stuff. And there was a huge, long recuperation thing that he had to go through, and therapy and all that stuff. But so this was kind of his answer publicly to kind of all of that, because no one after that accident, that's all anyone ever wanted to talk about with him. You know, it was never, even when like his last record came out, which was, you know, heavily about that situation and then the recovery period. Um, that's the only thing people would talk about.
And it's just like when you have like an incident like that just like overshadows your work, like, and you have like something like that where it's just like this amazing, very thoughtful record, and it's just like, oh, that's the guy who like almost lost his legs, and it's like that's what people think of. And yeah, I can imagine that being like really hard to take in, especially like, as an artist that is so like hands-on, and like everything that he's making is like his own and very like intentional. And it's like you put out these things into the world, and the first thing people think of you is like this dark time that you're trying to get away from, and you essentially just can't get away from it. And I can't imagine what that would have been like either, like just having that overarching on you, but also that being the first thing on the record. And like I don't know, there's just something with how it all starts too. It feels like you're starting a record. Like it feels like you're putting a record on like a table and like letting it like spin, and like it just tells its story. I didn't know that about the first song. Like that quote is amazing. Like I love that quote.
Well, considering that quote that I shared with you, my question for you is, aside from music, what else are you doing to make the most of your days?
A lot of it is honestly like, I mean, I'm a musician mostly, and then I work in like a talent buyer for a couple clubs in Chicago, and then I work in those clubs. So it's like I'm kind of just completely engulfed in this thing. So like when I do need to get the hell away from it, it's like I'll just like tune out, and honestly, like I'll play video games or something, and like just try to like focus in on just something else. And like I don't know, I make like digital art and stuff sometimes too, but I don't know.
So you're pretty immersed in the music business.
Yeah, I pretty much constantly surrounded by it, almost to a fault at certain points.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get it, man. I'm burnt out right now.
Yeah,
I listen to so many records and bands and shit. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I bet. And it's just like, yeah, you do it. It's labor of love, but at a certain point too, you're just like, dude, I need a break. Like I need to clear my head and just kind of like, get over that like fry. And like, I don't know, like me and like my partner, like, I mean, a lot of times, like if I'm not doing music stuff, it's like, we'll just lay in bed and watch like shows and movies and like, and like digest all that stuff. And like, I don't know. It's like, I don't like, if I'm not doing music stuff or whatever, it's like, I just need to like actually like relax physically. Mentally, it's like, I have to like kind of try to train my brain to like shut off because it feels like it's always going, and I can't get it to like stop, and in a way that just like tires me out even more too.
Oh yeah, sure, man. No, I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we're gonna skip over a couple of songs. I think we should probably skip over to Apple Bed.
Okay.
All right. So this song is interesting. The last words in this song is the last words in this song are an apple bed, in regards to what the speaker wishes he had. I think it's funny that the title of the song is the final words he sings, and the only time they are mentioned throughout the entire song. So like as a songwriter, like, I mean, what do you like? What is that? Is there a specific kind of like method or a formula for that? Like where, I mean, I guess it's the lyricist specifically we're kind of like focusing on, but it's like where for some reason that one detail is something that he pulls up to be the title of the song.
I feel like with the way that this is laid out and everything, it almost just feels like the knot in a way to like tie the song completely together. And like you have like the story of what's going on, and then to have something like that at the end, I mean, it feels very intentional, but I don't know if it's something that like maybe he wrote, like, or maybe he named the song after the fact, and was like a choice to choose the very last thing said in a way, as kind of like a, God, I can't think of the word, but just like the last, like your last saying or something, and like it's the last thing that you say, and you like name like the title of it. Like I feel like there's
almost kind of like a famous last words type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or like like I feel like the intention with that would be more so it definitely feels like more poetic to have the name of the song and then reflect it, like where it's not repeating in like the chorus, and it's not like a repetitive phrase that's gonna like hook into your head or anything. And like the main I feel like the main part of that song in particular too is like where I think is this the PJ Harvey's on this song too, I think, right? I believe
Applebed 5
because when they're doing like that melody of like the please doctor please thing,
no, that's Nina Persson.
Oh, okay.
Of the Cardigans.
Yeah. So like their melody there, that's kind of like the hook there. And like you would kind of just think traditional songwriting, they would name it after whatever the hook is. But yeah, I don't know. I never pieced that together in terms of,
yeah. It's just like, you know, especially when you're analyzing music like this, I mean, like that's kind of the thing that just stuck out to me. And I feel like I've seen something like that before, but I can't think why or where.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to think too, because I was like, I feel like I've seen a movie or something recently where like the last like line of that movie was like the name of the movie or something. And it's like it kind of gives you like that oh shit of like, oh, okay, like that's
right. It's like, oh, it's now I understand why it's that.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. But this one doesn't really do that, but it's still that same thing.
Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah, I mean, in today's time, I mean, like, who's really like looking at the track listing or the lyrics while they're listening to something for the most part, you know? Yeah. So that's like a detail that's completely passed me by, like for my first few listens, because I wasn't doing that. I was just like, all right, let me just put it on, let me just kind of like hear it, and so I completely missed it. And then when I finally sat down and was like looking at the track listing and reading the lyrics along with the song, I was just like, oh, that's interesting that he did that. You know, so little details.
Yeah, I love those little like, yeah, I never noticed that. That's really neat.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can find out anything else. So the next song I want to tackle is King of Nails. Mm-hmm. So the nails are all mine is the line that sticks out with me the most. It feels like he's singing all these metaphors pertaining to a feeling like he can never have anything good. Mm-hmm. Everything he has or gets kind of always turns to shit, it feels like in this song. So is that kind of the same sentiment of your song, I Never Feel Like Anything?
In a way, yeah. It's like it's just this, it goes back to like what we were talking about a little bit before, of just like having this like just go, like not being able to take things in and like not being able to like really appreciate what's happening around you. And with like I'll Never Feel Like Anything, it was very much of like me kind of running away from like the problems I had, or like my problems I have in life in general. And it's just like kind of like numbing myself like by drinking and just like doing things to like kind of make myself not face a reality at hand. And I feel like the parallel to draw with that with like King of Nails too is like you're saying, like the nails are all mine, or like the sleep in the fire with snakes I have sired. It's like you're kind of creating like these things, like you're the one that's making all these problems kind of happen in your life, and you're also left wondering like how and why those things are caused, but you're also the one that's kind of like snowballing and spiraling.
You can't see that fault. Like you can't see the fault in your own action to to realize it's like, oh, I brought all this shit upon myself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and you're left just like constantly just like, why is everything just like feel so like awful, or like why does everything, like, to me in a way too, it's just like it feels like everything is just like really hard to achieve, or it's like hard to like kind of like every little step of progress or like whatever with music and every like just life in general, it's just like always like a one step forward, two step back kind of thing, where it's just like you make like these little leaps of progress, and then like you kind of get in your own way, and you just like set yourself back. And like,
sure.
What I like about it is he's still trying to like prosper, I feel like, within like his music, or there's still like a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not completely like self-indulgent and bleak. And you kind of like sense it, not necessarily from like it's more so like his tone and the feeling of the music. It's just like, there's just something about it that like has that like that like smidge of uplift, like just feeling like everything's going to be okay in the end.
Right. It's not completely hopeless.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just kind of have to keep on trying. Like, I don't know, it kind of pertaining to the whole idea of just like he feeling like he feels like shit about the way things are going. And it feels like there's nothing good he can have. Like, you know, like what's the point of having nails, right? Like I'm the king of nails and that's all I got. It's like,
it's just like, I like this, like, I have this mound of like trash, or I have this
essentially,
like, and like, what does it actually mean to anyone but myself in a way,
right.
Or like, does it even mean anything to myself, or like, and just like kind of diving in with that.
There's a lot there.
There really is.
All right, well, let's skip on to the next song, Eye Pennies. So I mean, the closest connection I can make here is to the kind of ancient tradition of placing pennies or copper pieces over the eyes of the dead in order for them to pay the ferryman to cross the river Styx. And it also kind of clearly depicts what I imagine was like Lincus's poetic interpretation of death. You know, I think it's pretty much all in there. I mean, like not in a very kind of direct way, but in his own kind of poetic way. So what is your belief of death at this point?
I guess my overall idea with death is just like I have a very weird relationship with religion in general. I'm not a religious person, really.
Sure. Me too.
I'm also like, I'm not like a full-blown atheist or anything either. I just kind of have like my own belief that like it's like slight reincarnation in a way. Like if we pass, like we might find something, like our spirit might evoke or go into something different. But I also just like it doesn't really bother me either to like think if it's like we pass, then we pass. Like, and it's just like there's like a nothingness to it, and it's just like in a way too, it's like there's this like I have this weird that I didn't even really realize that I had until like really recently, but it's like I have all this music and I have all this stuff that like I've made, and like I don't know why, like I just like channel like myself into like my artwork and everything. And it's like I think like as long as like if I were to like pass like today or tomorrow or something, it's like, well, at least that part of me still exists in a way. And it's like
sure. So it's your legacy.
Yeah, in definitely in a way, because it's like I don't see myself really being one that's like gonna have kids, or I don't see myself really having like a family or something like that, or having kids, like having like my legacy carried on that way. Like I have like a weird perception of myself bringing kids into the world, and it scares me. Like,
yeah, really? It should. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's just like like I just feel like just I know myself well enough, like, and I know like my flaws and stuff, and it's like I don't want to like bring that onto like another person. Like I know.
Yeah, that's thoughtful of you.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know, it's just weird. And so it's like I don't know, the closest thing I have to that is like I guess like my artwork in a way. And
Right,
like,
right. And it's true. No, it is absolutely that. I mean, it's a legacy. It's something that can be carried on forever, and that's probably the most beautiful part about it.
yeah,
And you don't have to change a diaper, and it's great.
yeah. I mean, if I did, that would be a kind of an interesting thing if like I released like a CD with like you had to change a diaper on it or something.
Yeah, right. It just like, had a little smear of shit on it.
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
pick it up, be like, oh fuck. It's like, all right, let's move on to the next song. Let's move on to Dog Door.
Yeah.
All right, so I got another quote from Pitchfork for this song, and it's not complimentary. So, Dog Door is a miserable distraction. Imagine you're floating down a peaceful river on a raft. It's just you, the trees, the birds, and the fish. You don't have a care in the world. Then suddenly, the violent hillbillies from Deliverance swoop down on out of nowhere, pelting you with rocks and shouting an unmemorable phrase over and over again in an annoying processed falsetto. That is Dog Door.
I love that. I love that song.
I like that song too. Yeah.
I love. It's like it can't be a Pitchfork review unless there's something like harsh in there, of course.
Yeah.
And I love.
And it was
that.
glowing. It was glowing. Otherwise, the Pitchfork review was glowing, except they had to make a point to say that this song is shit.
I love that so much. Because they gave it like a 7.7, right?
Yeah, they did.
And it was like it's funny that song probably had that much weight to like there's that much hatred for that song if that record was like
right. Well, I think also because it was Tom Waits on it. It was
exactly.
Tom Waits collab, and then the reviewer did go on to say that he loves Tom Waits, and so it kind of like it almost pained him a little bit to say like this is the worst song on the record.
Yeah.
But it's that I think it's just like that is Tom Waits' influence on that record is that like he wanted to make this like really kind of like junkyardy feeling weird thing that he does,
And I feel like where it comes in too, it's just like I personally love that like flow where it just like it does feel like that exact like scenario of like just like it's this weird like just shrill, or not shrill, but like it just interrupts the whole flow of the record. But I love that about it, where it's just like you just kind of get thrown off and you're like thrown into the middle of like this like really like weird crunchy Tom Waits song, and it's got like that really just like driving like bass riff in a way, and it just like kind of rolls on itself, and then it just goes right back into the rest of the record, which is way more reflective of like all the songs preceding it as well. Right. And I don't know, like there's a charm to me with like wrenching something in that, but then there's also too like the argument of like, well, if it wasn't Tom Waits, like would he have even included that onto the record, or was it just like like because that could be like the heavy aspect of it, especially like with how much like he loved Tom Waits and everything. It's like you want to include that no matter what. Like I'd be curious to know like his thoughts on that song as well.
Right. Well, so my question for you is, what would be your dream collab?
That's a really great question. I mean, it would blow my mind to ever work in any capacity with Michael Girard of Swans, and then like or like Thurston Moore or something like that, like where it was like I feel like both those two bands like kind of ruined everything for me in like in the best way, where it was just like Sonic Youth like introduced me to just like noise and having like noise as a textural element into music. And I feel like once I got into that band, it was like there was no turning back into like all of my music from that point on has always had like this weird noise element to it. And it's a direct reflection of like it doesn't have to be Thurston. It could be Thurston. It could be like any of the four of them, honestly. Like anyone in
Sure,
Sonic
sure.
Youth would be like fucking amazing.
And what do you think you could add? Like, what do you think you would bring to them?
Um,
Or at least what would you want? Like, if they said like, hey, well, can you do something on this track? What would you want to do?
I would just want to make it worse. Like I would want to see what they're doing and then just like how can I make this like scary in a way, or like how can I like twist this in a certain way where it just um just kind of like brings like the mood down, because I feel like with Sonic Youth stuff in particular, it's like they have like there's like a consistent, like I guess for lack of better terms, just like a coolness element that feels like with their music, where it just like it feels like it's cool. And like it has like a similar vibe through all their music, but I've never like heard a song of theirs where it's just like, oh, this feels like really haunting, or like there's something like unsettling about that, which I feel like is why I love Swan so much, is like they were kind of that, like they were like the scary tormented brother to Sonic Youth in a way. And like and it would be kind of, but like they also have that like straight dichotomy of like Swans has like these horrifying soundscapes and like has all this music that is just like terrifying and perverse and just like really can make your skin crawl at times. But then there's like the other side of it where it's like he has some of the most like beautiful songs that I've ever heard too, where it's just like he can write these like really beautiful like long just passages. And I don't know if it would be more so like just wanting to partake or even just like sit in and like watch that process.
Right. Just be the janitor in the studio.
Yeah. I would just love to be a fly on the wall for like either of those bands and just like watch, like just observe, because that would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, I get you, man. I would do the same probably.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I'll actually only have one more question for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're gonna skip to the track "Little Fat Baby."
Oh, fuck yeah.
All right, so I got a little bit of a big thing here. So where did I get this from? Okay, so I got this from one of the song meanings websites. Okay, so somebody wrote in kind of their interpretation of this song. And what they say is, poignantly, Linkus would add borrowed lines from his dear friend Vic Chestnut to the 10th track, Little Fat Baby. The Vic Chestnut song in question was Myrtle. The following is Myrtle's last verse. So this is all a quote. This is all lyrics from the song Myrtle. Okay. I'm not an optimist. I'm a realist. I might be a sub-realist, but I can't substantiate. It was bigger than me, and I felt like a sick child. I felt like a sick child dragged by a donkey through the myrtle. And then Linkus would incorporate Myrtle across each verse into Little Fat Baby. So the lyrics from Little Fat Baby is, he got dragged by a donkey through the dust and the myrtle, but he was once a little fat baby. Pretty weird, huh?
No, yeah, I did like when I first heard it too, I was like, the like slight deviation, like because he changes like the one word before each thing.
It's a little easier to see it
at all. That's
what was that? What'd you say?
Oh, I didn't know that was like borrowed or anything. That's really
really cool. I've never really gotten into Vic Chestnut. I mean, I've definitely heard about him, and I know I've listened to some of his music, but I'm not a fan. I don't really know too much about it, but kind of a similar vibe to Sparklehorse, and obviously a similar kind of tragic history as well there.
Yeah, so, I don't know much about him really at all.
Oh, you got to look into it. Go ahead and look into it. And if you like Sparklehorse, it's a good chance you might like Vic Chestnut as well. So, so as pertaining to this information that I shared with you, is there anything like this that you could say that you've been inspired by a peer?
There's in a lot of ways. I think of my buddy Rob, who I kind of like learned how to play music with. Like he was the first person to really like push me in a lot of ways as a musician and just everything. Like I kind of learned how to play drums like with him there, like our first band and everything. But like there's a lot of elements to like, it's not like direct, but I feel like there's a lot of elements of influence just from like our time, like just playing together. And like me and him are probably like the most synced up out of anyone I've like really played music with. Where it's like I know everything that he's going to do. Like I feel like before he knows it, and vice versa. And there's just like an element to like to go back to like the Hella thing or like whatever. Like there's elements of like our first band. I feel like all over like everything that I've ever really done, and like he, as like a guitarist too, is a very like unique player and like has like, I mean, he does a lot of like noise and like free jazzy stuff, and has like these like weird like mathy elements and stuff to a lot of the music that he plays. And I don't know, he really kind of guided me into a lot of the stuff that I do. And I feel like, especially on like morning ritual and stuff, there's a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of like chords and stuff that I would watch him like play like while we were going, that like because I kind of just taught myself how to play guitar, so I was just like trying to remember like some of the stuff that he like where his fingers were placed, and I was like, I gotta try to see exactly like what he was doing and like try to like figure out some like things. So it might not be as like direct where I'm like borrowing like a line or anything, but there's definitely like some influence from him like on a lot of stuff, and it's like not as direct, but yeah, I don't know.
Like, so what does Rob do now?
He plays in a couple bands. He plays in a band called Past Forms. That's like they're smaller. Like they play in the city a decent amount, but yeah, they're just like really chaotic, like just like math rocky, mostly instrumental stuff. Just I don't know, like another person too that very into like his concepts and conceptualizes, and his whole theme for the last record they did was, it was just all based on like a this like underground hacker that used to be based in Chicago. And like I don't know, it was just like there's a lot of like elements to like his approach to writing, and like he's a very metaphorical writer too, and I feel like in a lot of ways like we kind of like formulated a lot of like, there's like a definitely like a brother type relationship to like a lot of the stuff that we do, but we just kind of went off into like different like styles and genres of music in a way. But I feel like there's a lot of similar elements to like what like his influences on me, or like my influences on him in like different ways. And
yeah, well, it sounds like he might make for a good collaborator in the
future. Oh yeah, he's been my collaborator for like 13 years at this point. So yeah. He's a great dude. But
all right, cool. Yeah. And so now just in closing, tell me a little bit about the new record, because it's out now and available pretty much everywhere. How are people able to get it, as far as like what formats is it going to be out on?
So there is a very limited run of vinyl out through Tomb Tree Records, which is like an offshoot of Zagima Beach Records, which is like a pretty prominent screamo label. I've worked with them a good amount, and like they're very DIY and just like make all their stuff themselves, and like some of the best people I've ever really met through all of this, and have always kind of taken chances on me. So I'm very appreciative of them with all of that. But you can get vinyl through them. And then I'm gonna, at some point, I'm hoping before the end of the week, 'cause we leave for like a run on Saturday, which is the 22nd. I'm hoping to find some time to maybe make some tapes of the LP. But if I don't, I mean, I'm gonna make some at some point. But
okay.
Yeah, it'll be like vinyl tape, and then yeah, I think it's on every like streaming service and everything as well, so you can find it there.
Right. For sure. So people can at least listen to it no matter what. Obviously, we encourage people to buy music these days, but if you're not going to buy it, at least listen to it and love it. You know,
I'll take nice. 0.0000 whatever fraction of a cent per play on Spotify.
Right. And you're leaving for tour like what, this week?
Yeah. So we have our release show on Wednesday, and then we leave for an East Coast run on Saturday. I'm actually going to be in I think we're playing in Providence.
You are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here.
Oh, damn.
I know,
Well,
man. I'm sorry. I just like.
Oh no, you're all good.
The one time I'm traveling is the time you're going to come through, right? You know.
Yeah. I was like, that's how it always works.
Right.
I mean, we're gonna be through, I'm sure, a good amount. I'm gonna try to make some frequent trips because I haven't really grinded on like touring and stuff in a few years now. So it's gotta get my sea legs back, I guess.
Right, sure. And I mean, and you know, with this new project, Virgin Mother, and the new album being out, I mean, are there any like kind of plans for the not too distant future? I mean, obviously not this week, but I mean, like, you know, November, December, January. Any idea?
We have a couple like local shows coming up. I have a couple potential tours that we might be doing like in 2023. I definitely want to head out west at some point and just at least hit most of the country and like tour off of this record. And then, but it'll probably all be in like small stints of like 7 to 10 days each or something. Like I'm not one that likes to be out on the road for more than like 2 weeks at a time at most.
Right. But you're still going to spread it around. So that's all that really matters. Just get hit all those hot spots.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't know, we'll make it work. We'll play wherever will have us really too. So like, I'm not picky about anything like that. It's just for the fun of it and just getting out there and playing. I'm just happy people are listening to it a little bit, to be honest. Like it feels really good, especially that record in particular.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, you put so much into it. I mean, it's gotta be rewarding.
Yeah. Well, seriously. Yeah, it's been great. So it feels good to finally have that out. It's kind of like a sigh of relief, but it's also like equally as nerve-wracking as well. So like, I don't know, but
yeah, man, the pressure's on. A lot of pressure on you, right?
Yeah, and it's
a little different than hiding behind a band, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like getting very neurotic with this run coming up too. I'm like trying to play through all the songs like a handful of times a day, and I'm just like, I can't fuck up, even though I know it's gonna happen. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be fine. I'm sure you're gonna do great.
I appreciate that.
All right, Seb. Well, it's been a wonderful time talking with you, man. I thank you for doing it and taking the time.
No, seriously, thank you for having me. This was a blast.